Shaking Ronan, why are you marching?
I don't want to have to pay fees next year, and I think it's really stupid that they're going to try and bring fees back.
So you think education should be free?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so far it's very good, really well organised. We've learned a lot from last year's one as well. Not a lot of extra security, a lot of, like myself, I'm an ex-medical officer from USI last year. I'll just come back to help out, and it's really gone pretty well so far.
I'm impressed with the turnout.
Yeah, it's very good now, really good numbers at the moment. It's close, can come up to exams, so I think it's really good. The students really showing they care about their education.
Do you support the students?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're absolutely right.
So you think education should be free?
I think education is a right. I think they're right. You don't get rights unless you fight for them.
No votes! No education cuts! No ifs! 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 No votes! No education cuts!
Students have the right to protest, have the right to assert their beliefs, and in particular, given the commitments that were made before the general election, they were very clear-cut. I mean, Rory Quinn did go to Trinity. He did sign the USI pledge saying that he would revert. First of all, he said there would be no increase in fees or in the student contribution charge, and he went forward by saying he would reverse last year's increase in the student contribution charge. Now, he didn't have to make those commitments or promises. He did. I think the fact that he did and is now not prepared to acknowledge that or give clear answers, I think damages democracy and damages people's perception of politics.
Do you have some sympathy with his position though? Because he argued that his hands were tied by a previous administration.
Well, they weren't tied because he knew this in advance of making the promise. I mean, the EU-IMF deal had been signed off before Rory Quinn made the promise. No, I think it had to do with politics and votes because he was afraid maybe the Fine Gael would win an overall majority or something. But you can't be that reckless or irresponsible in making really heartfelt commitments to students, which did have an impact on students. Now, people took him at his word and said, if this guy is saying that he's not going to increase the fees, if he's not going to increase the contribution charge, and in fact he's going to reverse it, I think a lot of people voted as a result for the Labour Party, believing that this was going to happen, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, a lot of students have told us today that they think education should be free. What's your stance on that?
Well, it's not free as we speak because they're paying the contribution charge, they have books, they have transport. I mean, I think there's a study from the DIT that's published today that estimates that for a student living away from home, attending a third level campus, the cost can be as high as 30,000 per annum.
So what's the Fianna Fáil alternative to it?
Well, we published a 4-year plan in advance of the last election, which actually showed how you can actually get to the 3% of the deficit without bringing back third level fees. But in the last general election, I made a clear commitment because I, throughout my political life, I've always identified education as a key part of my own political and indeed my party platform, and as a leader of the party, I'm determined that education remains at the key of what we're about.
How do we maintain a high standard like a third level academic system in this country without bringing about a huge increase in the student contribution? Because this is something that's important to students with rankings for.
Well, I question that to a certain extent. I mean, we've actually climbed the league table internationally very significantly in the last 10 years, actually without any fees.
But in the last 2 years?
Well, I mean, the last 2 years we're still in the top 200 by and large. And I'm not saying in the Times supplement where, because you have to be very careful and cautious about such tables. You know, they're very simplistic and they don't give good comparisons. But in the broader sense, you know, when I talk to multinational companies who've located in Ireland, they consistently speak about a very high quality student that emanates from Irish colleges and who are extremely effective, agile, flexible in the workplace and add value to what those companies are about. Now that's what Google say, that's what Amazon, Microsoft, Intel, I could go on with the list of them, and indeed some of our own companies as well. That's not to say that we can't improve the offering from third level education. Of course we can, but I think we probably need to, in the first instance, look more carefully at the question as to whether or not we're getting better value for money from the existing institutions and utilities and so on.